Hello! I haven't felt like doing a tag for a good while, and of course now that I do, it turns out to be one with 20 questions about how/why we read. The Philosophy of Reading tag by Brandon's Bookshelf, a new booktuber who has, as these new booktubers have an annoying tendency to do, just hit it out of the park immediately. I'm very bitter. But yeah, I'd seen this done by Michael Vaughan over on his channel, and I was partway through. I started watching Steve Donoghue doing the tag, and I went, wait a minute. Before I get all influenced by Steve's spin on stuff, let me go back to the original tag and listen to him actually talk about his questions. Because it's, do you find it with tag videos? You can't answer this question because I've got my comments turned off. But do you find it with tag videos that there'll be just the printed question on the thing, and if you went just by that, it can sometimes be, there's a lot of the nuance, a lot of the spin, a lot of the personality of the actual tag maker can get lost. And while I think these questions actually kind of stand well on their own, it was actually interesting, and see if hopefully I can remember some of these nuances as you go along. But hearing Brandon talk about the questions of his tag and kind of where he was coming from was interesting. So yeah, okay. 20 questions, and Brandon has this funny idea that people will pick and choose and will not answer all 20 questions. I mean, maybe you'll say pass, or maybe you'll have a very short answer, but no, we must answer every single question. But hopefully I can go quickly through ones I'm not interested. I'm not very interested. Well, if I only answered the questions where I was going to be interesting, all my videos would be incredibly short. But I will answer all the questions with as much as I have to say, and then I will try and stop myself. So yes, let's start with question number one. What's more important, a good character, plot, or message? Now, this is actually a really good one to start off with, because the message thing at the end from both Michael and from Steve, who I've only watched the first little bit of his, the hackles went up at the mention of message. It's like, if you want to give me a message, write me a letter and send it. It's like, don't put it into your book. But Brandon in his video talks about message or theme, which to me a message is much different from a theme in a book. A theme in a book is kind of a whole, it's a topic, but it's more like, oh, this gets you into kind of interesting discussions. This gets you into interesting ideas, where a message is, this is bad, don't do this, or this is good, this is awesome, and anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. And the kind of the finger waggy kind of shuts things down. To my mind, message shuts things down, where theme is, we're opening things up, and this is going to make this book resonate with me and last with me. And this is very much something, Brandon seems to be much more of a nonfiction reader. I am definitely much more of a fiction reader who happens to read nonfiction every once in a while. And I find that, you know, a book that is strictly plot and character, I might find interesting. I might enjoy myself. It's like, great, I went through the book. But if there isn't a theme, if there isn't something niggly there that makes me want to just kind of like question, and makes me kind of like go, what was it right for them to, ethically right for someone to do an action in a book? Or, you know, maybe it brings up things about like kind of history, or kind of just interpretations and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that really resonates. So now, what's most important? I mean, to my mind, character, plot, and theme. A good book has to have either character and theme, or plot and theme, but it's like there's a pairing there. I mean, I really, if I was slammed to it, I would probably say character. But if it didn't have a theme, if it didn't have some interesting stuff to say, if it was only just like oh, that's an interesting person, that would be a book that would fall out of my mind. So I would say character, but you know, the unity of all unity of beautiful unity of art and stuff like that. I would want all of them, and that goes for a nonfiction book as well. I'm going to try and remember, for Brandon's sake, to put that in. I'm not off to a good start. I'm not going to take 5 minutes for each one of these questions. Should one read books about ideas or opinions that they disagree with? Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. That can be a really good way of kind of honing it can either reaffirm your own ideas, or it can make you question your own ideas. And I think those are both really valuable things to do. That can sometimes be tough. We're such a combative place right now where, unfortunately, there's some books I think where I do disagree with the person, but the person writing the book seems to spend half their time wanting to attack on a kind of an ad hominem level people who would just disagree with them, which turns me off. So that can be a real challenge there for me. It's like, oftentimes I find that it seems like authors are only writing to the converted. They're not saying, let's try and have an open conversation. Now, people are always going to put forward stuff like, yeah, but this idea here is evidently horrendous and is going to harm people in our society. So you shouldn't even give it the time of day. And yeah, I have to say that does happen to me. We're all in our little bubbles, and it can be very, very challenging. I think you're fooling yourself if you say, oh, I'm open-minded, I'll listen to anything. Maybe there are unicorns like that out there in the world, but it's probably not me. So it's something that I think I actually need to work at. I need to work to actually to do. As tech advances, what do you think will be the role of books? Now, there's a bit of conversation here whether this is a criticism of, like, of ebooks or stuff like that. I mean, I'm like, ebooks, any device delivery that gives you text in a long form, I think will continue. I think we've had developments of various other art forms, other ways of delivering media, visual media, obviously being the big thing, television and movies. And those have their strengths. Those have those ways that can far surpass, surpass kind of the written word. But I've just watched Nomadland. I watched Nomadland, the movie, a while ago, and I picked up the book just recently and listened to it. And wow, those are two very different experiences. And neither of them is invalid, even though I'm semi pissed about the movie now that I've read the book, especially stuff with like how maybe something like Amazon was painted are portrayed in the movie in a very kind of neutral, we want to have access to those visuals, those sweet visuals, that the book was not. And just the amount of information you can get out of written material, whether that's electronically or whatever. I think the role of books will continue. They're just different languages that are important to us. Okay, I'm going to try and go quicker. How important are summaries, review, and art in your book choosing? Art, probably not at all. I don't really, I mean, pretty cover, ooh, ah, but it's like, that's never going to be something that's going to actually get me to pick up a book. Summaries, I have a hard time with summaries, because there's certain kind of summary speak that I'm just like, especially, I think about, like, I oftentimes I'll kind of, I haven't been to a bookstore in forever now, because of COVID stuffy, that kind of things. Boy, I scroll through the summaries on the library, on the website. Speaking of electronic means of gaining your books, and boy, there's so many summaries. I'm just like, ugh. There's just something about the language that just does not get me. It's reviews, it's people talking about books. A lot of times it's not even like it's just like the number of times I hear a book if I hear a book once, it's like, oh, that could be interesting, unless it's like, somebody who's like really amazing at giving a review. But like, just it can be just like a cumulative thing. If I've heard enough people talking about this book, and there seems to be a lot of like, wow, there must be stuff to discuss in here. Themes. There must be themes that I actually that'll pick up. So I guess we'll lump all that together, just chatter about books as review. Number 5, should one ever skim or scan a book? Obviously, if you're reading something for information, that's probably, sometimes at work there's stuff like, okay, I need to scan this, I need to read this quickly for work, and then get along and execute whatever I'm doing. I think that's probably the acceptable thing. It's like, for me, I read a lot of, I'm reading fiction. If I start skimming a book, it means I need to DNF that book immediately, because that book has I have failed, or the book has failed to keep my attention. Number 6, should reading always be enjoyable? Always. I'm not going to obviously put an edict down on high for everyone. For me, yes, reading needs to be enjoyable. That can be intellectually enjoyable. That can be just heart-thumpingly, oh my God, I just love this character, and they need to live. That kind of excitement. There's always got to be some engagement. I don't have to read professionally. So awesome. This is something that I'm doing in my free time. There's not much reading at work. I'm a support worker at a group home. There's not that much reading to be. That's not that much reading to be done. So yes, reading for me has to be enjoyable, or else I will put down that book and find another book. And if it's on a topic that I really care about and the book sucks, I'll go find another book. There's so many other books that I could find on any topic, virtually any topic. I would have to be getting super specialized, that there's only this book in the world, and this is the only book that you're going to get your information out of. And maybe if you're interested in that subject, maybe that would carry you through. So there'd still be enjoyment. Okay. Yes. Number 7, is it important to be well read? It's important to be informed. I'm open to the possibility that there are plenty of people out there who are informed, but aren't well read. That reading isn't the center of their lives. I can use my imagination, largely, hopefully, fostered a lot by my reading, to imagine that there are people out there who are well informed without being well read. Is it important to me to be well read? I guess it is. I'm Canadian, and I'm trying to become well read about Canadian history, and realize that my education, the education system in Canada when I grew up in like the 80s and the early 90s was pretty substandard. And, as a young dude, I probably just was not that interested in it. So it's important to me to be well read to that. I'm not going to, I hesitate on putting that on anyone else. Number 8, what is your book buying process? My book buying process is to buy books that look interesting. That I'm very lazy. I just basically, I passively sit here and, I passively sit here on BookTube, and books fly at me all over the thing. And the ones that hit my forehead and refuse to go away are the ones that I buy or borrow from the library, or download from the evil Amazon. Can't get away from it. I probably could, but I'm lazy. I'm lazy in some ways, and I try and expend my energy in others, and try and choose the right ones, because I don't have that much energy. What is your reading process? My reading process is to try and balance my life enough that I get a good hunk of reading in. I think just constitutionally, I can't go to bed without having read. and I try and make good hunks of reading well, at the beginning of my day, because middle of the day is all work and stuff like that, and the weekends is all doing sort of stuff or filming videos and things like that. So that's my reading process. How do you use what you read? See, now this is where Brandon comes back in with that damn nonfiction. I'm gonna hone my psyche and become a greater man. I'm being silly there. I'm a fiction reader. But even like with my nonfiction, I was struck by that. Like I was listening to on audiobook All Our Relations by Tanya Tiaga, which is a book about kind of the alarming suicide rate in Indigenous people in Canada and throughout the world, and other Indigenous people who have, unfortunately, have a remarkably similar experience of colonization, and how that has fractured and disrupted just sort of like the identities of like, who am I, and like, you know, how I can cope, and just the trauma. And it's like, this is like Taga is like a journalist, and she is hucking a ton of facts at you. And I know myself, it's like, even if I kind of took careful notes, and you know, Brandon talks about like how one of the reasons he's done a booktube channel is that he wants to kind of talk about the book, because that's another way of processing it and making it stick in a way, which is very similar to what I do, mostly for fiction. Though I don't know if I do it to make it stick so much as to experience the book in a more deeper, fuller way. I don't know how much of like this All Our Relations book I'm going to hold on to. Like, you know, someone's going to come to me like, how many of these facts will actually stick in my head? I don't think it's actually going to be that much. But I'm going to have, so why do I read it? Why do I read it if it's all just going to empty out the other side? There's something about the actual process of reading, that the exercise, the muscle that I feel like I am developing, which I can't say that this is not going to get me to another step somewhere, but it's going to help me live right now. I live in my books. And I think that's what do I use? How do you use what you read? I use my reading to live. I use my reading to be. I am a reader, and I read, therefore I am. There, that's as deep a philosophy as you're going to get from me, Brandon, because philosophy, boy, that really goes in one ear and out the other for the most part. Number 11. Well, I basically just answered that. I'm probably influenced by knowing it's coming up. Number 11. If you could download a book to your brain, would you still read it? No, because as I just said, it's the experience of reading, which is I'm here for, not an end product of I know X, Y, and Z from this book. And that goes for nonfiction as well as fiction for me, which is probably why I read a lot more fiction, I guess. Number 12, what are your views on rereading a book? I wish I had another life so that I could reread more of my books, because I know from the times that I have that it's probably more rewarding than reading the book the first time. I got to do that with Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, and I was really not sure about Wolf Hall the first time I read it. I felt like, you know, she was really tipping the scales, and Hilary Mantel was tipping the scales to make me to say, oh, Thomas Cromwell was an awesome guy, and it was only on a reread that I realized, no, this is from Thomas Cromwell's point of view. And as you continue on in that trilogy of books, you get your view of Thomas Cromwell becomes darker and darker and more complicated, far more complicated. He is not the monster that maybe people on the other side of a religious divide might put him as, but he's very complicated and not somebody I would want to have interrogating me in a dark room, because it would not go well. It would not go well. speaking as someone who with a Roman Catholic mom from England and a Protestant father from Scotland, yeah, wouldn't have gone well. So number 13, what makes a book good? You know, I think you can circle back to the top of this, which is plot, character, theme, language. There's some kind of a magic mix of when an author hits it. Man, they hit it, and all those kind of gel together to make something more than just those words on the page. It becomes alive. It becomes alive in your mind, and it becomes a part of you. In a way, you carry Kristen Lavensdatter around in your head for the rest of your life. Wow, that's amazing. That's so amazing. Number 14, what makes a book bad? I mean, I think the worst kind of book is the one that just passes right through you and you forgot it, but you forget it within a week. You get to the end of the year and you're thinking about like, what did I read this year? And you go, oh, I read that this year. And so like there's that kind of a book that just kind of like, it's the laxative, the laxative one that just whoosh right through you. There's the bad books that I hate read, which actually are probably better than those books. I've had books where it's like, this book engaged me so much on every page. There was some fantasy book that I hated so much. I was traveling at the time, but I hated this book so much. It kept me engaged on every page of just how hack writing, terrible characters. I just hated this on so many. Fridging the main character's wife to give him a motivation to pursue his trials throughout the thing. It's just like, oh, it bugged me so many ways, but that actually was more engaging. And you know, there's some people say like, oh, if I hated a book, I just won't talk about it. It's like, no, if I really hate a book, it's like, wow, that's like, that is going to tell you, I can tell you something, how I reacted to that book. I mean, not to be horrible, well, to be this is my YouTube channel, to be horribly egotistical. When I really hate a book, I think that is going to reveal something, hopefully about the book, but also about me and about my particular tastes, which I think is if you're coming here to listen to me yak, you might as well hear that. You might as well hear that. And it's I have to say, I don't get that pissed off because usually I'm trying to be careful and not pick up books like that. If I know a book, if I know I'm going to hate a book, I won't pick it up. It's the ones where you hear positive things and you know, people like it. Oh, extremely loud and incredibly close was, oh, I almost want to reread that book to be able to shout about it again. Because, I have to hats off to Jonathan Safran Foer, whatever the fuck his name is. That book really pissed me off, and that's a reaction. Be happy. That's a reaction, and I I don't attack the author personally, but boy, I really will go after the book about why something would piss me off so badly. Number 15, how do you feel about not finishing a book? It's funny. Brandon talked about how like, oh, I'm starting to get known as a guy who DNFs books. And I'm thinking, have you met Sean the Book Maniac? Let's have a little let's do a little comparison there about DNFing, and you can see, you check out Sean the Book Maniac. He is the queen of the Bale on BookTube, and the Queen Empress. I can't remember what he is. He is the fellow that you need to check out for bailing. As I get old, I'm trying to get better. I'm getting better at bailing. If I'm being miserable, if I am being miserable with a book, I do try and put it down because it's not gonna do anything unless I hate it. Unless I really hate it, then I'm probably enjoying myself on a sad, pathetic level of a sad, small little booktuber. Should the author's personal life matter at all? I read a lot of dead authors, so safely dead, so they can be as I definitely go with, you know, especially back in you know, back in history, not back, you know, back, you know, things change so quickly that I'm, you know, TV shows in the 90s are deeply problematic now. That, you know, if you're reading something from like the 1800s or, you know, actually the 1950s are just really freaking horrendous. Probably because they're all wearing modern dress, but all the stuff that's coming out of their mouths, you just want to puke. Um, but this maybe comes to the whole thing of reading things you disagree with. It's like, this is our history. This is stuff that is, some of this stuff is unexamined still and is still running around in my own head. The novels of Piers Anthony. Oh my God. I don't know why I picked that one. Probably because that's the stuff that I consumed of fantasy novels, these Xanth novels as a young teen, probably forming my bizarre, twisted male sexuality out of Piers Anthony. You just do not want to picture that. Okay, we're getting into a little TMI, but so, you know, safely dead authors is great. I think the big ones probably at the moment are J.K. Rowling and Orson Scott Card are the easiest ones to come to mind. Orson Scott Card, actively politically participating in groups that are, you know, anti-LGBTQ plus, and then J.K. Rowling with all her kind of transphobic stuff. You know, they're two people that I probably you won't hear me mention on this channel because I'm not going to read their stuff anymore. Orson Scott Card, because Ender's Game was such the thing, I picked up a used copy, so I didn't feel like I was contributing to his little bank fund. J.K. Rowling, luckily for me, wasn't interested in her mysteries, and Harry Potter finished, and boy, those later movies really suck anyways. That said, someone that I've sort of, I've walked away from. So, you know, dead, fair game, and living. Yeah, I would. I'm probably not. I'll just kind of walk away from them. You know, I've carefully read her, like J.K. Rowling's whole essay on her views on trans people, and that was thank you for explaining that fully to me. I listened to it, and I really saw a lot of the horrible things that have been used against many other minority groups about people like that. And, you know, I don't know where she's coming, why she would come from that. And I should stop this conversation right now because I'm just getting down a whole cul-de-sac, and we're almost at half an hour. I hope, you know. But yeah, I guess that's where you go. Do you ever read a book without knowing anything about it? Yeah. I will sometimes I'll just go, oh, that's an interesting subject, and I'll pick it up, or or just like, you know, here's like, you know, especially in kind of at the moment, it's just browsing through the library things and just going, oh, okay, that sounds a little bit interesting. I guess that's the summary thing again, and just go, okay, fine, and I'll try it. And sometimes that's like, wow, you know, I didn't realize it was this kind of book to start off with. I don't have all those strictures, and that can be interesting. It's like, oh, what genre is this? or stuff like that. That can be fun. A lot of the time, though, I guess you're doing the time management where I do try and actually, because it's such a time investment to pick up a book, that I do try and get a little bit of information. But sometimes it can be just simply someone saying, it's like, oh, I like that book. And, you know, they don't actually give you very much information, but it's like, oh, I like that person, or that person sounds kind of, that person who's talking about the book sounds interesting. Okay, I'll try it. And sometimes that's rewarding. It's fun to do. It's fun to do every once in a while. What author, genre, series, or culture can you just not get into, and why? I don't know. I mean, there's so many books. There's so many books that I mean, I think I probably look, I'm less active in kind of modern horror. I think a lot of times I'll probably, in like nonfiction, I will steer away from kind of like hard science books, just because I know that, boy, it's going to take a lot of effort for English major Jay to actually kind of to take stuff in. Talking about literacies, there's probably where I'm not particularly greatly literate, and you know, I also know if I take the trouble to try and learn this stuff within a couple of months, Goldfish head here will have forgotten everything already. So it's like, why freaking bother? As culture goes, I was thinking, oh, is there a culture? And then I thought, oh, I know exactly when. My parents emigrated to Canada in the 1960s. And there's sort of a post-war England, kind of that malaise, that kind of like, let's emigrate to Canada time. That I don't know if there's like, if I just inculcated this from my parents. I don't think they were bad-mouthing England or anything like England or Scotland or anything like that. But it's like, for the most part, I steer away from that kind of that time period in England post-war. It's like, no. And even World War II itself, for the longest time, I think I was like, yeah, I've heard enough stories from there. Probably because there's also a whole bunch of baby boomers who are probably yakking about it too much, that you get so much of a flood that you just go like, yeah, I don't care. I'm the next generation. I don't care. I think that I'm probably, as I get older, that I'm lightening a little bit on that. But yeah. Number 20. Let's end off with an easy one. Do you think everyone should read, and why? No, I don't think everyone should read. I think that for whatever reason, I've always been a reader. I've always loved books. I've always been stuck in books. From the earliest I can remember, I was reading and I loved it. And I am not the kind of arrogant asshole who would say, thus, everyone must be like me. No. I think that I'm really, happy that I don't know if I'm happy. I think it's a healthy thing that we have a society where you don't read. That's not how you take things in. But you go on YouTube, you go to places, and you get things in visually. There's different languages. I do think that books have a certain way of being able to compact and deliver information in what's the most efficient, in a really efficient way. But I think that to say that everyone should read would be just like that just doesn't recognize the variety of human experience and the variety of human talents. No. I mean, I think it's really enriched. I really enriched my life, but that's not to say that somebody else isn't going to find a different way that will be equally as enriching and equally as happy to them. How long in human history have human beings, like this many human beings, been literate? I don't know where I'm going with that. Let's and on that trailing off point, let me end the video by saying something that I should have said at the beginning. Brandon, I think he said for the next month, and this was published on, his video was published on November the 23rd. He is doing a giveaway of Marcus Aurelius, a special copy of Marcus Aurelius. I guess that's, if he's very much kind of into philosophy. It's apparently, according to Steve Donoghue, is a very nice kind of copy of Marcus Aurelius, which I'm not interested in. I love this tag, Brandon. If you are indeed watching, you won't be able to comment down below because I'm an odd fellow. You'll figure that out by now. But yeah, I actually have read the Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I have read it. It was one of these books that I went, oh, I'm going to just read one a day. And wow, I read one a day. And talk about people that you just don't jibe with, that whose opinions you disagree with, or whose philosophy you disagree with. It was an engaging book that way, but I really didn't jibe with this emperor talking about how he thinks someone should live life, and how you should be. Yeah, it did not jibe with me. That was probably a good example of like, oh, I had to wrestle with that. I don't know if I need to wrestle with that again. That said, put me in, don't put me in. I don't care. I don't care. You'd have to ship it all the way to Canada. I don't know where you are, but I'm going to just assume, look, I'm in the snowy reaches, the very isolated snowy reaches of Victoria, BC. It's like, putting it on the back of some kind of steamer and having it to go all the way up to Canada. It's like, you just wouldn't want to have to go through all that trouble. So, I'll let you give it a skip. All right. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for, if you say you actually watch the end of videos, even if they're really long. Well, you made a tag 20 questions long. It's your own damn fault. I don't expect anyone else to have gotten to the end, but I do expect you, Brandon, to have gotten to the end. All right. More videos later.